Hello and good evening to all of you. Good evening and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the current affairs and the Gazette magazine for today, that is 8th of November 2021. Good evening Sam, good evening Bhabani, good evening Amlan. How are you people? How was your Diwali? Good to have you all. Hello and welcome to Bhabani. All right. Today we have got some important and hot selling articles in the market today. So let's start the discussion. All right. I hope that you will be preparing your notes alongside as well. Right. So good evening Harpreet. Good evening to you. Welcome. The important updates in the market today are, first one, 5 years of demonetization. We have an update article for you on 5 years of demonetization because it was 2016 and the same date, it was a Tuesday when the Prime Minister he announced demonetization of 500 and 1000 rupee currency notes. We will understand what was the impact, what was the intent, and what has been the effect of it till now, right? This is the first update article from the newspapers today. The second one is on revival of asset reconstruction companies, ARCs. Right, so this is an important update because RBI has wanted new ARCs to get formed. We'll understand about this. And the third one is ISRO's solar power calculator, an important article to understand the science and technology development with respect to India and how India is aiding the companies and the countries abroad. Right. All right. The feature news for today is on MNREGA. Right. We have understood that there has been a shortage of fund in Manrega scheme, and therefore in this article we will understand what has been the context in which Manrega was initially formed. Has it been successful or have there been challenges? So we will understand MNREGA's in totality in the featured news discussion at 6:45 p.m. today. Becomes an important article because every now and then MNREGA is in news because of funds or some other related issues, right? So this is the featured news for today. Image of the day is on an important technology to be able to capture carbon sequestration in the air, right? So this is the image here. This day in history has been dedicated to, yes, demonetization itself, 5 years of it. Terms and concepts. The four terms that we are going to discuss today are Delhi Bazaar Portal. The second one is ISRO Data Window, another initiative by ISRO, a very beautiful initiative. 1 year community from Tamil Nadu, and Good Mosquitoes, right, which will be combating the dengue mosquitoes. Editorials, the three editorials that we covered today are Vaccine Trust, and then we have another one on Bhutan, and the third one is on UAPA, right? So we will cover all these three editorials today. And case study of the day is on waste to wonder. We will understand what this wonder is happening, what this kind of wonder is happening, especially in the Delhi zoos. All right. So Babani says that it was a good Diwali for her. All right, very good. Green crackers. So green crackers have become very expensive because of shortfall. Also because there is huge demand and it's not available in the market, right? So good evening, Kriti. Good evening. How are you? All right. So let's start with the first snapshot. Today's first snapshot is on 5 years of demonetization. It has been now 5 years since the currency notes were abolished, and you can very well see the impact. Before getting into the details of the article, let me show you the graph which was present in the Hindustan Times itself, right? So it says, see, one important intent of the demonetization policy was to ensure that there will be less flow of black money, right? What is black money? Black money is that money which has not been accounted for by the government. It has not been taxed and therefore it becomes black, right? So that was the intent. The initial intent was not to ensure that we have a digital economy, right? But we should also understand what has been the impact of it. What is the cash flow in the market? And what is the present level of digital money flow in the market? So, see, cash to GDP ratio is back to normal even before the pandemic. That means if we wanted that, see, this was the time of demonetization, right? This was the demonetization time, and these were the times of pandemic. Even before the pandemic hit, there was complete cash in the market, even more than the times of demonetization. In fact, if you will see the tax performance post demonetization, it has only decreased. It has only decreased with time. Not only that, the number of UPI transactions, on the other hand, have increased. The number of transactions have increased, and GDP growth has fallen since that time. So see, 8.3 growth rate of GDP during 2016-17, and then after that it has only fallen, and this is the COVID year 2020-21, right? So we see in totality decline in the GDP growth rate, we see the cash flow back in the economy, we see lesser tax collection, and we also see that there has been a increase in UPI transactions. So this has been an update from there. However, if you get into slighter details of it, right? So CIC, cash in the market, right? It says cash still rules. Now, if you recollect those days of demonetization, if the amount was 100 rupees in circulation that time, nowadays the amount is 157 rupees in the market in cash flow, So effectively the cash flow has increased in the market, right? Even now you might say that this is because the economy has also risen, right? But even as proportion to the economy, GDP, the percentage of cash in the market has again increased. So earlier there was 9% of the cash in the market, cash in circulation, not kept at a place but in circulation, and now it has become around 15%, right? So CIC to GDP ratio, cash in circulation, this is the keyword here. Cash in circulation to GDP has also increased. Cash in circulation has become 157% of those times. Keep noting these important things. At the same time, digital transactions have increased. So this has become an important update, right? It has the most important update is here, which we have also covered previously, formalization of economy. So earlier, the economy was partly informal also, but because of this demonetization and because of GST structure, because of automation, because of the financial transactions happening online, all of the informal economy has gotten converted into formal economy. So the GDP of informal sector fell from 52% to 20%. See, I'm not talking of the proportion of people working, I'm talking of the proportion of the economy, right? Production levels. See, so this is what is the update. Number of UPI transactions has gone up 15 times since the last 5 years. So this is the update here. Right, I have also noted down some important other things also. See, during those times, an immediate effect of this policy of demonetization was there was an immediate drop of terrorism, because terrorism was funded by black money and it was not available in the economy immediately. Now, one important agenda was that, see, around 15 trillion rupees. This is what was sucked out of the economy. 15 trillion rupees, around 86% of India's money in circulation was sucked out, and was to be sucked out, and it was projected that out of this 15 trillion, 5 trillion rupees would be black money, and it would not come to the government again, would not come to the RBI. But almost 99% of this amount came back to the government, in fact to the RBI. So somehow or the other, black money was not curbed. In fact, there is also a projection that there is a good amount of black money in circulation right now in the economy. So these are the updates, right? And we can also see terrorism back on track. In fact, when the sucking out of $15 trillion happened, the government immediately sucked in $7 trillion of 2000 rupee notes, right? So in fact, if you have bigger notes, that means you can have bigger chances of having the black money. This was the criticism, right? So there was a forced formalization through that was the side effects of demonetization, and then we had this GST, right? So because of this, there was forced formalization, and then we see the impacts right now. Okay, so this is snapshot 1. Snapshot 2 is on the revival of asset reconstruction companies. The government had declared along with RBI that there will be a formation of bad bank. This will be the superstructure under which smaller asset reconstruction companies will be formed. This company will be called as two fragments. The first fragment is National Asset Reconstruction Company Limited, and the second one is India Debt Recovery Company Limited, right? So two companies will be forming bad bank, right? So the primary agenda of National Asset Reconstruction Company will be to purchase all the non-performing assets, right? Purchase NPA from the banks and institutions, and it will pass on this non-performing asset to the debt recovery company, so that it might sell it, it might restructure the loans, and then give a part of this back to the original institutions and keep the profit with itself, right? So these were the two companies formed, but they are not the only companies which are going to get operated. We need smaller asset reconstruction companies, And this is where a committee has been formed by RBI recommending various suggestions to revive asset reconstruction companies. See, we have had asset reconstruction companies in the past as well, but they have not been as effective. And that is the reason that there's been a renewed thrust on asset reconstruction companies now, right? So what has been the main agenda of recommendations? One, to have early sale of bad debts in case that the debt is just new, 6 months old, and it has not been structured well, right? It can again be passed on to another company which can restructure the debt and perform the task. If it is still 12 to 24 months old, it is still a new debt, right? The performance of that particular action can still be done by another organization. If at all it has to be sold, it can be sold at a good value. But imagine if an asset has turned 10 years old, say 10 years old, and it has not been sold for a long time. Do you think that this non-performing asset will be sold later? Its value will not be as such. So the first agenda is to have early sale of bad debts, right? Then another one is direct acquisition. So asset reconstruction companies should have the ability to directly acquire the assets which have been non-performing by bank or other financial institutions. Direct acquirement, right? So these are important recommendations of RBI while the formation of ARCs happen or revival of ARCs happen, right? And we can also have a structure called as alternative investment firms, right? So they should be the one who can sponsor the restructuring of the funds, right? Because we have explained this n number of times. See, if this was an institution and it did not work well, right? Under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, it was declared as a bankrupt organization, and the bank which was to get the payment, it did not get the payment back, right? So they will take over the collaterals. What will they do? They might take over this company's assets, because bank has given some loan to them. Suppose it is 100 crore rupees, and through the selling of this organization, they will be able to say procure 80 crore rupees. But this is not bank's primary job to do these kind of sellings. So bank will sell this particular asset to ARC, asset reconstruction company, for say suppose 70 crores. Bank will bear a part of this loss. Bank will be a part of this loss, but it will sell it for 70 crores. Now, asset reconstruction company and debt recovery company, they will initiate a process so that they may restructure the loan. They may be able to sell this asset for a profitable amount at the right time. And this is how they might be able to sell it for 100 crores. They will give this 70 crores back to bank, and 30 crores is their profit. This is just an ideal scenario, an example that I am sharing. And this is why ARC were initiated in the beginning. Okay, so banks often sold old vintage loans to ARC, and this made the recovery and reviving business difficult. See, so this is why we need that the asset which is fresh, non-performing, that be sold, right? So this was the main agenda, right? Now, asset reconstruction companies, they were formed because it is not bank's core job to keep selling the collaterals that they have. So core function for a specialized institution, ARC, should be there, right? So substandard asset up to 12 months of non-performing asset. 12 months post, it is called as doubtful asset, and loss is when the bank has completely declared as that it has non-performing and non-retrievable kind of asset, right? So this is the structuring of non-performing assets. Okay, a quick revision there. All right, you guys there? Good evening, Ravi Ranjan. How are you doing, Ravi? Good evening. All right. All right. The next one is ISRO's solar power calculator. This is a beautiful one. So what happens here is ISRO is going to observe which is the place on Earth which is going to receive maximum heat, at what time, at what intensity, and it is going to share it with all the countries around. So it will calculate the solar power at all the places, all the tropical places, and it is going to tell the data to the respective countries. And this is how we can have the solar power generation farms across the globe. Very simple, no? But ISRO is the one which is initiating this. See, we discussed this n number of times that there are 3 ways in which India can participate in the climate change agenda. India, in the climate change agenda, the first one is have laws for curbing the climate change, right? So, for example, India declared 2070 as its net zero target. Another one is mitigation. Another one is adaptation strategies. So from the grassroots level, it will empower people don't use plastics, don't throw garbage, do not participate in stubble burning. So this is a grassroots change. And the third one is adaptation, right? So this is right. So the third one is adaptation. In adaptation, what happens is the government will tell various organizations around the world that we are a part of International Solar Alliance. We have formed CDRI, Coalition of Disaster Resilience Infrastructure. So this is where India is empowering countries abroad, right? So that it can adapt to changes. This is for grassroots empowerment, and this is the law. India is activated in all three genres, right? So this is where we are talking of right now, adaptation mechanism, and India is trying to help all the countries abroad to have a solar power calculator through ISRO, a great initiative by India, right? So what are they going to do? They will have an app which will tell the amount of solar potential of that place, solar potential, monthly, yearly, minimum maximum temperature at that place, right? And the time at which it provides the maximum amount of energy, right? Also, it will tell what is the inclination at which the solar panel has to be placed. See, on Earth, there are at different places, the panels will have to be placed at different inclination, because the solar energy will be falling on them at different times, at different inclinations, right? So that is why it will tell every month what is the inclination required at that place for solar panel, right? It will tell that through digital elevation model, right? Is it not good? It's a great initiative. I really like this, right? It will help spot those locations, and it will also help in boosting one sun, one world, and one grid, right? That was proposed by India itself, right? It will also make India the leader in solar power. See, if India is not becoming the leader in battery power, if India is not able to import lithium, right, why not have solar power for ourselves, right? So this is the way in which India is trying to innovate it. Right now, we might not find it important, but 20, 30 and 50 years down the line, this will become a landmark initiative for our country, okay? All right, this day in history dedicated to demonetization. In case you have forgotten the old notes, here they are for you, right? All insignificant, 500 and 1000 rupee note, and these are the new notes in circulation, right? So the potential to harm the economy is more in the newer 2000 notes, because the purchasing power of 2000 rupee note is far high, and it can be again, be made a part of the black economy again, right? Okay. So feature news for the day is on MNREGS. What has been the issue around it? Is it a scheme worth sustaining in our country? Is it required? Do we also need an urban job guarantee scheme? This is a rural job guarantee scheme for unskilled laborers, at least 100 days. And what has been the criticism of this scheme? What does it require to stand around, right? We will understand this at 6:45 p.m. today. Now, image of the day is on the balloon to capture carbon. This is formed with the help of an Israeli company. Imagine all the carbon dioxide in the air that can be sequestered and then later used for industrial purposes. This is one of the initiatives. So what is the purpose of an image like this? Use this as an example, no? Example of technological transformation, how balloons can be used to sequester carbon from the air, right? And it can be recycled for industrial purposes, okay? Use them as an example, right? We have not just put here for you to glance through. You have to be using them as examples, right? Every time. And this is how it will aid you getting better marks. Examples. Terms and concepts. The first term for today is Delhi Bazaar Portal. See, another example of e-initiative, e-governance, e-selling, e-marketplace, globalization, all of it. What is this? Delhi Bazaar Portal is a portal where all the traders can put their products online here, and it is available to the global market, the world market, for it to see, for it to purchase from, right? So just like another portal that we had discussed once, that portal was Open Network for Digital Commerce. How many of you do remember this? We had discussed this in a featured news. There was a complete 10-15 minute discussion on Open Network Digital Commerce. So on that similar line, Delhi Bazaar Portal has been initiated. See, what happens right now? What happens right now is bigger companies like Amazon, Flipkart, and then we have Jio, Myntra, and so many of them, right? These companies have taken over the market, and what do? They are the intermediaries. They are people who are putting their products over here, and there are people who are purchasing the products. This is what is the market, right? Now, Amazon is the one who lists various people here. Amazon may have associations with those people who are listing their products, right? So this informal association leads to Amazon promoting specific promoters only, specific people only, and this is against neutrality of business, right? This is against business competition norms. There are not only this, there are many other issues also related. For example, Amazon also can have a related party. It can have a related party which is a stakeholder in selling the business, right? So these are not the things that are ideal to an ethical business. Therefore, the government says that we will create a digital market, open network for digital commerce. It will be for everybody. Every MSME, every individual person can put their product here and they will be competing with every other product, right? So, a similar initiative has been started by Delhi government called as Delhi Bazaar Portal, open for all around the world, right? So a good example of e-governance initiative, a very good example where business neutrality happens in online spaces. Online transactions in e-commerce are bound to go more than 3 times in the coming 4 years, more than 3 times. So right now it is around 25 to 30 billion dollars. It is supposed to go 100 billion dollar plus by 2025, and that is why these kind of initiatives become very important for business neutrality in e-commerce, especially during the times when there is work from home economy, especially during the times when there is corona pandemic, and we could have other pandemics as well, right? So this becomes very important fodder for you. In fact, if you have an answer which has to be answered in 15 sentences, one of the sentences could be this. In fact, 2 sentences with 1 example, right? So you should look at these terms from that perspective, right? There should be an agenda inside you why you are looking at these kind of terms as well. Now, again, ISRO, beautiful initiative again. Data window. What has ISRO done here? ISRO has initiated one data window in the website where it will tell data about cyclones, coral reefs, coastlines to various countries which are a part of SIDS, small island developing states. Becomes very, very critical how India is trying to help resilience and adaptation to disasters. Now, India formed an organization called as CDRI, Coalition of Disaster Resilience Infrastructure. This is an association of around 25 countries, some developed countries like America, UK, countries like France, they are there, India, Nepal, these countries are also there, around 25 countries, and they are trying to help the SIDS, small island developing states, right? These are the very remotely located smaller countries in the Pacific region, etc. And one initiative they are going to help through is the infrastructure for resilient island states. And through this specific initiative, ISRO is going to tell them some data about impending disaster, natural disaster, also going to tell about any coral reef damage and coastlines, right? So this is an initiative of ISRO. Talk about it, data window, right? ISRO's data window, all right? Okay. The third one is Vaniyar community. It is a most backward class community in Tamil Nadu, and their reservation has been quashed right now because it was found by the court that it was given during the times of assembly elections. So these are the times when there is model code of conduct and communities cannot be lured into giving these kind of reservation, right? So that is why in news, right? These are poorer communities from the region and they have been backward for a lot of time. They demanded through a lot of protest reservations, and right now certain kind of reservation has been abolished. All right. The fourth term for today is the good mosquitoes. What are these mosquitoes? These mosquitoes are the ones which have Wolbachia bacteria in them. Now, what is the main agenda? The main agenda is to breed a new breed of mosquitoes by breeding the good mosquitoes, right, with disease-bearing mosquitoes. The disease-bearing mosquitoes are the dengue mosquitoes, and they will be breeding with the good mosquitoes which have Wolbachia bacteria. And once they breed, this the transmission of dengue will no more happen, right? So this is very good for combating dengue around the world, right? It will reduce dengue cases as much as 77 to 80%, right? A very good initiative. All right. If you like this initiative, all you got to do is put a thumbs up here, and if you share, subscribe to the channel, you will be able to receive timely updates of the online videos and other beautiful videos that we create. All right. So now we are getting on to the editorial discussion. The first editorial is on an important issue around the world, around our country, and that is UAPA, right? Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. This act was initiated in the year 1967. However, later on changes were made in the 2000s, and this act later became an anti-terror act. Anti-terror act, the way changes were introduced, right? So before we get into some basics of the act, I would like to discuss what are the upcoming issues, right? So let us quickly understand big editorial from the Hindu. I will try to summarize this it as quickly as possible. So a case, Twaha Fasal versus Union of India 2019, it was registered, and what was the issue in this case? 3 people had to be put behind the bars because they had radical literature item with them. Radical literature item, this is what the act states: radical literature. Second one is book on caste issues, leaflet related to Maoist organizations, and some dissenting notes related to Lenin and those times. They possessed these things and they were arrested under UAPA, right? And they were kept behind bars for a decent amount of time, right? So since UAPA was invoked in these particular issues, some of them also fled away, but other people were caught, right? So ideally UAPA has to be invoked for offenses relating to membership of a terrorist organization. This is what the act mentions: giving support to them and having criminal conspiracy, right? But these people were never found to be indulged in any act of violence. In fact, all their motive was to have some intellectual and ideological inclination. They did not indulge in any kind of violence. They just have some ideological bent, right? So this is what the article says, right? They had to spend 10 months in the prison, and there was no bail guarantee just because there was some law which mentioned, UAPA, which mentioned that these people had some kind of literature, some book, and it seemed that they could indulge in some kind of violence, right? So the Supreme Court here says that when there is no intention to further the activities of terrorist organizations, why don't we set them free? I repeat, when there is no intention, when there is no intent to further the activities of terrorist organization, why don't you set them free? In fact, this is what the act also mentions. If there is no intent to further the activities of terrorist organization, set them free, right? So if we get on to understanding what is mentioned in United Nations, right? United Nations Special Rapporteur, it says terrorist means they are using deadly means. This is one. Second, they intend to cause fear or compel the government to do something or not to do something. And the third one is to further an ideological goal. All these 3 have to be there. They have to use some deadly means. One, they have to have an intent to cause fear among the people or compel the government to do something or not to do something. See, and the third one is having an ideological goal that they further. Now, even in case we think third one is what we agree on in this case, what about deadly means? They had no deadly means. They were just talking. What about intent to cause fear and compel the government? They did not do anything like that. So when the United Nations definition itself is such, why is India having such stringent definitions? Not only that, there are additional issues with UAP. One issue is that there is no bail provided to the person who has been accused. In fact, the accused himself has to prove that they have not been involved in the case like this, in this manner. So here, when the bail request comes up, the court is asked to consider only the police statement, only the charge sheet by police, alternate investigation into the critique of police or the perspective of the accused is not heard to, and therefore no bail is provided, right? And there is also a provision that up to 180 days you need not have a charge sheet. The police need not have a charge sheet of the criminal or the accused. So there is no comprehensive examination of the proof, and there is prolonged trial. The person rots in the jail for months and years. So this is the criticism of UAPA, right? Okay. So here this court can take 2 interpretations. One is the narrow interpretation and one is the wider interpretation. The narrow one is the one which I have mentioned right now. to go by the norm, by the way UAPA has defined that bail should not be given, right? This is one. It can go along with another interpretation saying that they possess literature and therefore they should be under the bars, or there should be a wider representation where we are talking about the rights of the individual, where they are also getting proper representation. And in this particular case, the court has given a wider interpretation, a liberal interpretation to the rights of people, rights of liberty and the person, right? So the issues here are the wordings and the methodology of UAPA. It is under criticism. I'm not saying that it is bad or good. We will always take a neutral stand. Do remember, these are acts which have been formulated by the government. And while dealing with questions like this, answers like this, we have to be very sensitive, right? Now, there was a question just a couple of years back in one of the optional subjects. It can be asked in general studies also. It was about, have the aspirations of Jammu and Kashmir been met through the conversion of state into 2 union territories? What a sensitive question it is. So we have to tread the path very carefully in these kind of questions. So if there is a criticism of UAPA, you will provide about what about the criticism and some appreciation also. Both of them have to go hand in hand. You have to balance both the perspective. You cannot have your own opinions here. These have to be very, very standard opinions. So one here is the definition of terrorism itself. Definition of terrorism is vague. See, any person indulging in vandalism can also become a terrorist according to UAPA. So the government enforces UAPA on person through subjectivity, right? Against why not initiate those kind of acts, right? So destruction of public property act, right? These kind of act, why are you declaring them as terrorists? So definition of terrorism itself is vague here. The second one is the bail provision. Why not provide the rights to the individual also to have their say, right? So these are the kind of, you will have objective, very, very objective grounds on which you criticize this act, and you will also have to appreciate the act at some point, right, towards the conclusion that it has also helped somehow, right? Although coming back to UAPA, the conviction rate is around just 3% in the last in 2016 to 2019. This is what the editorial says. Just 3% in the last in these 3 years. So all in all I would like to say is that it has been in news, and these are various perspectives you must have in your mind, okay? And you should also point out United Nations. See, there are certain elements which I am giving which are not part of the article, but they form a complete integrity of the article. So United Nations Special Rapporteur definition of terrorism, you should note, deadly means intent to cause fear, compel government to do something or prohibit to do something, and further an ideological goal, right? And in case you want a screenshot, just take a screenshot. You will be able to understand perspectives into this. A big editorial it was, and I tried to summarize it. All right. Okay. Okay. Moving ahead to the next editorial, it talks about the threat perception in the Bhutan region. Now, see, China and Bhutan have recently had a pact, signed a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, about the border issues. And China indirectly compelled Bhutan to do this. You know why? Because China was slowly and steadily claiming certain western, northern, eastern territories in Bhutan. And Bhutan was under some or the other compulsion to have a memorandum of agreement signed between these two countries. In fact, it was also in the air that India asked Bhutan to go ahead with some kind of agreement, right? So that it could balance its threat and not balance power. See, Chinese media popularized this as a beautiful agreement between China and Bhutan, something that was towards China. But it is not so. It is not so because Bhutan is only trying to balance its threat perception. It is trying to ensure that China does not attack Bhutan. In 1960s, China had similarly attacked Tibet region as well and persecuted the Buddhists there, right? In late 1950s. And very similar could be the issue here. And 2017 onwards, when we also faced the issue of Doklam, right, where Indian army also entered in Bhutan, and they tried to help the Bhutanese, that China does not claim the Doklam area, right? So since then there has been a lot of sensitivity. India is trying to also maintain sensitivity and security in Ladakh region, and so here is Bhutan, right? So this is the update from ORF, right? All right. Then moving ahead to the case study. Today's case study. Hello Manjunath. Hello Ravi Ranjan. Good evening to you. Case study of the day is on ways to wonder. Now you wonder, NCR, Delhi NCR region is going through a pollution crisis right now, and we have studied about the new device which talks about what is the percentage of pollution from what source, right? So this new device talks about the percentage of pollution from particular source, and it says that around 42 to 45% of pollution in Delhi NCR as of date is because of stubble burning. Stubble burning. Just around Diwali times, the complete stubble burnt air, it has come to flown to Delhi because of the climate of the winter times in the NCR region, and it has also stagnated over Delhi because of less flow of wind afterwards. So earlier, just 5 days, because this percentage, 44%, that is the stubble burning percentage of pollution, it was hardly 3 to 4%. It is there in newspapers, today's newspapers. Now, point I'm making here is, can we use the stubble in innovative ways? One of the innovative ways is using them in zoos. During these times of winter, these animals, they use stubble to create a level of sheet, right? These sheet, the bedding material can be warm for these animals. We are talking of peacocks, antlers, deers and bears, right? So if we use it like that, there will be huge amount of consumption of stubble as well here, and this will also this will also fetch some money for the people, right? And this is completely natural. So these are the kind of innovative mechanisms one should be a participant in. The Delhi Zoo has already procured this kind of stubble. So one ways to wonder is a good case study for you here, right? Now, this is where we come to the conclusion of the Gazette discussion. In 2 minutes, we will meet again and join the other link where you will be able to witness the feature news for today. Participate with me in the discussion. Feature news for today is on MNREGS and the issues with it and what are the prospects. Until then, create good notes, and we will see you in quick 2 minutes. If you subscribe to the channel, you will receive timely updates for live videos and other interesting videos. Thank you for watching.